From the playground to the boardroom, there's this one question that kind of follows us everywhere. What really makes someone a great leader? Well, today we're going to dive right in and try to figure that out. No, seriously, think about it for a second. When you hear the word leader, who's the first person that pops into your head? Is it some historical figure, a modern CEO, maybe your favorite team captain? And what is it about them? What's that thing that makes them stand out from the crowd? And that, right there, leads us to the ultimate question. Is that special something they have just an innate gift, part of their DNA? Or is it a skill, something they've carefully built through practice and a ton of experience? That's the whole born versus made debate we're going to unpack. Okay, so before we can even begin to figure out how leaders are formed, we first have to get a handle on what leadership even looks like. Because let me tell you, it is not just one thing. It's a whole lot more like a toolkit than some single all-purpose hammer. And this brings us to a really crucial point. The best leaders are basically chameleons. They adapt. The kind of leadership style you'd want in, say, a chaotic emergency room is completely, totally different from what works best in a collaborative design studio. The context is everything. So let's start with the classic top-down approach, autocratic leadership. Here, one person is in charge. They make the final call, and the team gets it done. Now, I know, it might sound a little old school, but in a crisis where every single second counts, that kind of clear, decisive direction can literally be a lifesaver. Then, on the complete other side of the spectrum, you've got the democratic style. In this model, the leader is much more of a facilitator, actively bringing in ideas and input from the whole team. It's an amazing way to boost morale and spark brand new ideas, mainly because everyone feels like they have a real stake in the outcome. And then you have laissez-faire, which literally means let them do. This is the ultimate hands-off approach. The leader trusts their team of experts 100%, delegates the work, and then just gets out of the way. Think about a senior scientific research lab. This style is perfect when your team is already full of highly skilled, self-motivated pros. All right, so let's just lay it all out. As you can see, each one of these styles has its moment to shine, right? Autocratic leadership is built for pure speed and a crisis. Democratic is perfect when you need to foster creativity, and laissez-faire is all about empowering the real experts. The true skill isn't just knowing these styles exist, it's knowing exactly which one to pull out of the toolbox for the job at hand. Okay, so now we've got a good idea of what leadership can look like, but that brings us right back to the big question. Where does it actually come from? I mean, were those super decisive, autocratic leaders just born that way? Did those collaborative, democratic leaders have to learn how to be like that? This is really the heart of this age-old debate. So this whole thing really boils down to two classic schools of thought. In one corner, you've got trait theory. This is the idea that great leaders are just born with certain fixed qualities, like charisma or intelligence. And in the other corner, you have behavioral theory, which argues the complete opposite, that leadership is a set of actions and behaviors that anyone, and I mean anyone, can learn and master. This quote from the historian Thomas Carlyle, well, it's pretty much the anthem for the whole born leader argument. The idea is that history itself is literally shaped by just a few exceptional individuals who have these innate, heroic qualities that, well, the rest of us just don't. And for the counter-argument, you've got this gem from John F. Kennedy. Now, as a leader himself, JFK saw it not as some fixed trait, but as this dynamic process of growth. It's something you're constantly working on, something that evolves with experience. So, who's right, the historian or the president? Well, like with most of these big debates, the modern answer is a little more interesting. It's time we move beyond that black and white argument and look at the more complete, a more synthesized picture. Yeah, it turns out the entire debate was kind of based on a false choice. It's not nature versus nurture, it's nature and nurture working together. The modern view is that great leaders are a product of both their natural talents and the skills they intentionally go out and develop. Let's think of it like a recipe. Your innate talents, maybe you're a natural communicator, for example, that's just one key ingredient. You still need to add in learned skills, like strategic planning, and then season the whole thing with real-world experience. And of course, the final dish is always going to depend on the situation you're cooking for. And honestly, here's the most empowering part of all of this. Leadership isn't some gift you just wait around for. It's a structure that you build. You start with self-awareness, identifying your own natural strengths. Then you actively fill in the gaps with new skills, you seek out challenges to gain experience, and you learn to adapt your style to whatever the moment calls for.
So, at the end of the day, that old debate is pretty much academic. The real question is a whole lot more personal. It's not about whether leaders are born or made. It's about taking your own unique blend of talents and skills and deciding, what kind of leader will you choose to become?